It is such a good day to be an Alexis Mateo stan! Hi, hello, welcome to your least favorite drag race content creators channel. My name is Jer. Today we are talking about Canada vs. the World Season 2, Episode 3. This episode title is so weird. It's called the Glamorous Drag Queen Ball Challenge, which sounds like it was written by AI, and the premise of this episode is AI stuff. It was such a horrible title. It sounded like one of those Amazon wigs that are like fierce, drag queen, synthetic, real hair, lace front, hard front, black, brown, purple, beige, every color of the rainbow for all styles party. You know what I mean? So let's get into this gig. So we find out that the reason why Kennedy made the decision she made last week was because she agreed with the judges. She thought that Fierce looked really good on the runway. And honestly, I'm glad that Kennedy played the game fairly. I really like when it's played fairly. It feels like a more even competition. Like the worst one is truly going home and that nobody's being unnecessarily safe. The mini challenge I was really excited about. It was supposed to be a mocap situation. And I was like, oh my god, the budget is crazy. The fact they did a mocap for Canada's Drag Race. And it turns out it was just the bodysuit with the balls on it and they weren't actually doing mocap. I was kind of disappointed at that. I was really like wanting an opportunity to be like, look at you, Drag Race. This is why you're doing it bad. RuPaul, take that fracking money and put it to good use. But I can't now because it was an actual mocap. But I was really excited for what the concept could have been. Alexis wins that, and I'm so happy she becomes a mini main girl, but we're gonna get into that in a second. I wanna sidetrack really quick because a lot of people are getting on Miss Tracy Melchor's case right now. Fierce was being petulant last week, and she continued to be a brat this week. That is not an excuse for some of y'all on the internet to be saying the things you're saying about Tracy. If you don't like what she said and you don't like that she clapped back at Fierce for clapping at her, and y'all are gonna make some of the remarks you're making about her, y'all need to zip your lips. Y'all need to go check your biases and you need to take a step back and breathe because it's a TV show. Fierce was being a brat. Fierce is being unkind to someone who's judging her and continuing on this bit that is no longer funny. Talking about the petulant thing was funny one time. After the second time, it's like Jaden having a vision. It's no longer funny anymore. Now to the main challenge. It's all around AI stuff. And I feel really funny about AI, and I think a lot of people are kind of on a weird fence about AI. I think it's cool in the situations of like medicine and science and astronomy, things like that, where we're learning really cool things about the universe based off of how AI is helping. Where I think it becomes dangerous is especially in the arts. We're seeing artists' work getting stolen from them to train AI. We're seeing people creating fake drag queen AI to create these RuPaul's Drag Race parody things, but it's being shown as a real thing. We're seeing some queens that go on the show being used as their art to train AI to create new drag. And that makes me feel funny because artists should have full rights over what they're doing. And the fact that AI is basically duping that is funny to me. So this whole challenge, even if it was goofy gaggy, trying to riff off something currently in pop culture, the idea of what it's talking about makes me feel funny. So I just want to address that. I think this is really pervasive in the drag space right now. And I think it's worth bringing up that this is kind of a funny thing in our current culture. Not funny haha, but funny like, that gives me a weird feeling. Category 1 is AI generated drag queen. We've all seen those crazy photos of these insane proportions that don't make any sense, and there's extra fingers and weird glitchy body parts, funky hair. So I thought that a lot of the interpretations of this were funny. To start us out, we have Lemon looking like an utter train wreck. And I love that this was almost an excuse to come out looking busted. The wig is such a problem. It's like wet but stiff, and there's all these funky waves that are in there and it looks wrong, and the makeup is crazy. The body proportions are bananas. She's got Kendall Jenner hips, and this is lunacy. The look is just so wrong, but it's so right for the category. I love how chunky these sequins are, and just everything about it looks like something that a computer created. This doesn't look like something that anyone in their right mind would wear or think looked good, and that's why it's such a great interpretation of this prompt. Tainomi was attempting to do a screen printed look, and I honestly did not understand this interpretation. It looked like a beach towel and it was giving beach vibes, so I thought that this sort of seemed like resort wear rather than the prompt. I understand kind of where she was going with it, but it just didn't make sense. The colors were correct though. I think if she had stuck to this color and just had it be a block pattern and not had any other of these body details on it, I think it would have looked kind of cool. But that's not what she did, and that's unfortunate because this, unfortunately, was mark number 1 against her. And Tainomi, as I've been saying over the last couple weeks, has already seemed like she's sort of mentally checked out. And I just think that Tainomi's one of those queens, like many we've seen on the show, who's great at drag, but so bad at Drag Race. Next out is Eureka, giving us the trans flag colors. I loved this hair. I loved the outfit. It was like one of those AI generated drag images of a drag queen that actually looks good. All the little accoutrements and accessories, the goggles, everything about this is so wrong that it's right. And I mean, the silhouette is insane. I think this is honestly one of my favorite looks I've ever seen Eureka in. And I'm gonna be so real, I'm very confused why Eureka was not in the top this week. Next up, we have Alexis in this super structured gown. I love the pops of this cobalt blue against this really odd beige color, and how everything looks a little bit wind blown, so it looks glitchy. The hair is really cool with the dip dye blue as well, so it matches the costume. She has the 3 fingers, which she explained as herself being an alien, so I honestly don't think Alexis understood the prompt and just had a gown made, and it just happened to work out that it was perfect for the assignment, even though in her brain she probably thought it was something else. This is very similar to when Alexis did camo in All Stars 5, and it looked really cool in camo even though it was not camouflage. This is one of those happy accidents where you missed the mark, but you missed it so much that you got it right. Like, the arrow went all the way around but somehow hit the target. And it's so cool. I love this look. This was my favorite of the night. Next out is Kennedy Davenport, and she has 2 different colored eyes, which I thought was a fun little detail on this outfit, but everything else was just really disastrous. When I think AI art, I think of something that is sort of too perfect. It's sort of too good. It's something that a human would not be able to accomplish by normal means. But there's something off about it. Something is just slightly wrong. Either the hair is a weird texture that doesn't normally exist in hair. There's an extra finger or missing fingers. Something is wrong about it, but you can't quite figure out what it is. The eye detail was that thing that's wrong, and everything else was just a disaster. Like, this looked like first time in drag, first time creating something, and Kennedy brought this from home, but it looks like it was made there. And so it was just completely off book, and really, honestly, was probably the worst thing of the night. I thought Tainomi's was bad until Kennedy came out, and then I was like, woof. Next out is Fierce, and you know what? I actually really liked this a lot. I thought it was really fun. I like how sleek and odd the gown is. Something looks like one of those yarn toys exploded. It looks like what you'd find if you were to take one of those and flip it inside out. I like the sculptural nature of the hair. Something about this looks too perfect. The silhouette is too strange. The hair is strange. It looks like it was generated for a first out, and I like it. Next out is Cheryl, and I like this look, but not for this prompt. It sort of suffers the same thing that Tainomi's does. It just wasn't the challenge. I think if it was like Freak Show or Weird Science, something like that, I think this would have been a cool prompt idea. I like the silhouette and shape. I'm very much a fan of a bell shape, and the long arms are super trendy right now. We've been seeing it for like about 1.5 years of drag queens doing really long arm looks, and I think it's cool. I don't think it's died out yet because we haven't seen it so much that it's starting to be like, okay, I've seen a long arm before. This looks really cool, and I just don't think it matched the assignment. It doesn't look too perfect that it's wrong. It looks so wrong that it's kind of right. And that's not what I think of when I think of AI. Category 2 is the robots have taken over. And I thought this was such a cool assignment. I was really excited to see what people were gonna do. I was hoping for some android looks. I was hoping for something that looked like a real person, but you could tell that something was just a little bit wrong. Again, it's kind of so perfect that something is clearly wrong. Lemon comes out first in this sparkly furry suit. The mirror elements were really cool. Allegedly, this came from Amazon, and I don't have a problem with an Amazon costume if it looks good, and this does. My problem with this look is I wish that the head came off. When Venus came out in season 4, wearing this bodysuit that had all of those details all over it. I think Venus was doing diamonds and was just covered in them, right? When Venus had that look, it was full head to toe bodysuit, but Venus was able to take off the mask so that you could see their face and show that even that had work on it, that had paint, that Venus had even glued things to their face as well. And for a drag look, I want to see that element of the human underneath, and that's me being nitpicky. And so I wish that the mask came off, and I wish the helmet came off, and that would have made this a 100% solid look. I think it's easy to buy a suit off Amazon when you've got the money to do so, come out and wear it fiercely, and then just wear the suit. I'm not a big fan of head to toe looks. Something's gotta come off so that I see the drag performer underneath. Next out is Tainomi looking like Bronze C-3PO. This Ooh. There were so many good ideas about this. I love what she was thinking about doing. I like the braids. This is what I wanted to see from Lemon, was the face and then this weird robot body. Because a lot of post-apocalyptic futures show human heads getting put onto robot bodies or android bodies. Detroit Become Human, where they look human, but when parts of their bodies are damaged, you can see the robot shell underneath. That's what this was kind of going for. Just everything was so ill-fitting about it, and it just had the wrong proportions. And I think you can do bad proportions well, but I just don't know if this hit it. So this was strike number 2 and an automatic Tainomi's in the bottom this week, and that sucks because I love Tainomi and I pegged her as a top 4 in this competition, and I was completely wrong. Next out is Eureka in what I thought was a super solid look. I love this pink. I do wish that it wasn't pink since the first one was also pink. I would have loved to have seen this in a lilac, and I think that would have looked nice. What I think is cool about it is that it looks kind of Power Ranger, Tron, what is that straight people thing where Shia LaBeouf was in? Transformers. It looks a little like that all meshed together. The chest up is visually really interesting. I think the waist down is where the problems are at. I'm not loving the boots. I don't love that the knee pads are off to the side, and I don't really like the way that it sort of almost looks like a jester costume at the bottom half. Do you see where it sort of tapers down like that? I don't like that part. I'm not responding well to it, but this was still really solid for what the challenge was, and I thought it definitely looked robotic and android-like. Next out is my queen, Alexis Mateo, in an iridescent trumpet gown, and oh my god, she looks so freaking cool. This is so space android. This is super Doctor Who-y to me. I could see a Doctor Who femme villain wearing this. I love that even the head has no hair on it. It's very robotic, very cool, very visually interesting, and having iridescent on top of the purple was a smart move because it breaks up those colors. If this had all been one thing, it would have been like, blah, but because it's not, it's so cool. She looks like she came straight from a 70s future movie, and that's kind of what I want to see in this prompt. Alexis could have done no wrong this week, in my opinion, and I'm so glad that I have been a stan of Alexis in every single ball and have disagreed with every one of her bottom placements, which I'll get into in a minute because we're going to talk about that. This was the winner in this category. Then we have Kennedy Davenport. This was rough, Barbara. So to me, this is sort of giving desert sci-fi nomad. This is not, to me, translating as robots have taken over. She looks a little bit like an alien out in the middle of Tatooine. But if that person on Tatooine was an off child production of Star Wars in Akron, Ohio. I love the idea of what this was, but the print was so inexpensive and it looks so cheap and Party City-like. It looks like when you buy something on Amazon thinking it's gonna be really cool, but then it gets to you and it's not that at all. And I don't know if Kennedy had this original vision. I can't help but wonder if she paid a designer and they came up with this and it was like, well, I got it, so I can't turn back now. I gotta wear it. I don't have anything else for the assignment. It's messy and it's not good, and I don't need to say any more about it because you have eyeballs and you can look at it yourself. Next out is Fierce, and I love the white. I think that's really cool. That's super solid. That's very emblematic of what you'd think of with a robots have taken over. I like the wings, I like the headpiece. Everything about this is sort of Power Ranger villain, and I like that. I don't really have any notes about this. I just think it's very cool, and I like the makeup and the contact details. Good, solid look from Fierce. But I can't help wonder if I love it so much because everybody else wasn't really where I wanted them to be for this category or what I was expecting for this category. And then last out is Cheryl, and you know, I really liked the walk. I like this look. It seemed like something from an Eccleston season of Doctor Who. Cheryl looked cool from here up. And then everything else was kind of a miss. It was the same problem that some of the other girls had. It just wasn't fit very well. Something was wrong about the details. And I wish that this fit better because it was such a cool idea. It just wasn't executed well. So then the final category is Supermodel of the New World. And the idea is that you are the supermodel of the future. The future's version of RuPaul. I was excited to see what the girls were gonna bring. And every one of these girls has done bad in a design or ball challenge. And in Alexis's case, she flopped every single ball she's ever been in, which I gotta say, I thoroughly disagree with all of those placements. I don't think Alexis was great in the cake ball, but she certainly should have been safe. I think Carmen was worse than Alexis was. I think that in the money challenge, the worst person of that night was actually Raja. Sorry. I thought her two categories before the final one were atrocious, and she also did not know any of the lyrics to that song. The final look was good, but it doesn't make up for the first two categories being bad. Alexis only struggled in the middle category, in my opinion. She did great in the other two. And I think 2 highs is better than 2 lows, in my opinion. In the hairball, I also don't think that she was the worst one that night. And then in the backyard ball, Alexis was the clear top placement for the design portion. The barbecue part was not as strong. That's where Jujubee took it. Alexis won in the design part. And Alexis and Juju should not have been out for elimination that week because they were so good. So I was really proud that Alexis turned it out and won this week. But let's talk about the look. So Lemon comes out first, and it's sort of like a 60s meets 80s prom. And that's kind of where it stopped. I didn't get futuristic from this. I love the silhouette. I think the callback to that era is really fun, and I think the future is really gonna look a lot like what the past looked like. It's gonna reference a lot of the past. And so on that, I think Lemon achieved what she was trying to do, which was a retro future thing. It just wasn't full enough to create the illusion of being the supermodel of the future. This seemed like the supermodel of the future's co-host. Like, if there's a RuPaul's Drag Race in 3024, this would be the Michelle Visage. It doesn't look like the RuPaul of the future. But the colors are spectacular, and I think Lemon looks beautiful. I do have a controversial opinion, and I'll save that for a second, because next out is Tainomi, and you know what? I love this green. I don't know what they were talking about. The green gives me host. This I could see Brooke wearing. Especially with the sculpted hair, it was really pretty. The problem is obviously the nude illusion net that's over her. And I gotta say, I think Tainomi was sabotaged a little bit. During the walkthroughs, the guest judge was suggesting that Tainomi should drape. And draping is a technique in sewing, for anyone that doesn't know, where you take your fabric and you put it on your mannequin and you pin it there and you sort of see where it falls. You put your darts in where you need to, you do some hand stitching, and you create a garment based off the way that your fabric wants to hang. Draping is a very advanced technique in sewing. That is something that designers on Project Runway do when they are out of ideas. That's what a lot of designers do when the fabric is not cooperating. So like, let's say you're trying to create this really interesting princess seam dress and it's just not working. And you cannot figure out how to make the lines match up. You can't make the fabric do what you want it to do. You take whatever you have left on your bolt, you stick it on that mannequin and you see how it wants to sit. And maybe if you're really lucky, something will drape in a really interesting U shape and you'll get an inspiration to create a collar. And you're like, you know what? This would look beautiful as this type of bustier. And then I'm gonna create a skirt out of this fabric and I'm gonna figure out how to make all this work based off how the fabric is talking to me. So for this guest judge to suggest that Tainomi, who just said she had barely taken sewing lessons and really only knew how to do one shape, I think it was kind of sabotage to tell her to drape, because I think that's where the problem was. If she was not told to drape this material, she would have never put that bolt on. She would have figured out some other way to incorporate it and it probably would have looked cool. Would that have saved Tainomi from the bottom? Absolutely not, because the first two looks were bad. But this was the nail in the coffin. And I don't think it's fair at all that some of these guest judges roll in and put an idea in these queens' heads who have slept maybe 4 hours, are on day 6 of filming and are just exhausted and have not had really any substantial food, and they've probably been drinking alcohol by the gallon, and then get in their head and tell them to do something they don't know how to do. That's a very advanced technique. So that rubbed me the wrong way and I was very disappointed to hear that. But we can't go back and fix the past. I hope that Tainomi knows that she's fierce. She's a great competitor and I think the green was a solid look, and if that beige had not been on there, I think she would have looked great. Next out is Eureka in what is a beautiful gown. It's something is kind of religious about it, which I don't know why Eureka goes for these sort of church lady, church conductor type dresses, but I think they're very pretty and flattering on her. I love the loaf. I love that she always sticks to that as her brand. I think the colors are really nice. I love this sort of caramely color on her. This is constructed well. She looks good, and it's very puzzling that she was not in the top 3. And also I gotta say, the face mask is really cool. That's probably one of the best parts of this. It's definitely giving futuristic host of a drag competition or the winner of a drag competition in the future. Next out is Queen Alexis Mateo, and I gotta say, this hair is just bananas. It's so cool. I love the silhouette, the really clean, crisp silhouette of this gunmetal as the base of the dress, and then these really exaggerated 80s spikes on the sleeves were really freaking cool. This 100% is giving supermodel of the future, and Alexis did not let me down but at all. Alexis slayed all 3 categories and rightfully deserved the win. No one else was gonna snatch it after she literally knocked out of the park all 3 categories. And last week I had so much blind faith in Alexis, and I'm so glad that I kept barreling forward in my standing of this woman because she deserved this win. God, I'm so happy for Alexis. Next out is Kennedy Davenport in a really confusing looking look. This was essentially the exact same thing that she made during her disco look in All Stars 3, which was disappointing for me, but the most disappointing thing was this ugly corset that she made. I don't think that a corset is always the best accoutrement to a gown when something is not fitting right, and I would imagine that this dress was probably puckering a lot in the middle, which is probably why she made the corset. Another problem with it is the hair. I don't understand the bow and why it needs to be there. It sort of takes it from supermodel to junior pageant, and I don't respond well to that. A lot of this look is kind of just wrong. You have eyeballs. Next out is Miss Fiercealicious in this lovely lilac color, and she looks like she's off to the races. I love that she boned this dress. That is insane that she boned this dress. The pearl details on the neckline are really fun. I love the hat. I love the way that this sparkly tulle is draped over it. The hair coming out of the back of the hat is one of my favorite details. I love a hat that's got hair coming out of it, and the hat has pearls on the back. It's so cool, and this is absolutely a supermodel. But this looks like supermodel of the modern world, not of the new world. I think what could have made this a little more future and spacey would have been a really exaggerated sleeve or a shoulder moment or something to just add a little more interest here, because when I think future, I think something is going to be a little bit bigger than everything else, and the hat doesn't quite do that enough. I think also this kind of outfit leads to nothing but disappointment for a drag queen, because you go there to compete and to show your skills, forgetting that you're being judged on so many different things, not on your sewing ability. So her ability to sew a bone into a dress so that it's got structure to it is only impressive if you are working with 4 designers on your panel. If this was Heidi Klum, Tim Gunn, Michael Kors, and Nina Garcia, they would have eaten this up. But it's Brooke, Tracy, Brad, and I forget this designer's name, and I'm so sorry to forget his name. But it's them. They're not professional designers. They're not seamstresses. They're not seamsters. They're not couturiers. They are drag judges. So boning a dress like this is literally only going to lead to disappointment for Fierce, and for other competitors going on the show in the future, you need to show something bombastic, not necessarily your skill set. Your skill set comes in the practical things like acting, where you're able to merge camp and quality together so that it's just very interesting to watch. But when you're sewing something, you have to just make something that looks cool. You can't do something that is technically impressive, because it's gonna go on deaf ears. No one's gonna notice it, unfortunately. I, as someone who knows how to sew, love this look, and I think it's incredible that she was able to do this, because boning a garment is hard. I've only done it once, and I hated every second of it, and I stopped midway through because I didn't want to do it anymore. It's very, very, very complicated and difficult to do that. And on top of it, it looks like it's a off to the races dress, not a supermodel of the future dress. So there were a couple little misses there. And then last out is Cheryl in a little scoochy club dress. It does not give supermodel of the future. It gives I'm off to go get day drunk right before brunch, do a couple get on up numbers, and then, you know, drink some more mimosas before I do my night show at Hamburger Mary's Jupiter. And it looks cool, but it's not giving supermodel of the future. So time for some controversial opinions, because my bottoms were Lemon, Kennedy, and Tainomi. And I personally would have probably saved Lemon and made Tainomi and Kennedy lip sync against each other. My tops were Alexis, Eureka, and Fierce. I was baffled that Eureka was not in the top. I know that it's gonna probably make people mad that I'm placing Lemon in the bottom, in my personal headcanon. I liked a lot of what Lemon did. I liked a lot of elements of it, but it just didn't score as high for me as what Cheryl did. I liked Cheryl's 1 and 2. I liked Lemon's 1. And I liked elements of 2. But I liked it just a little bit less, and both Lemon and Cheryl did not meet the expectations that I had for this category. Not that my expectations matter at all, but if I'm reviewing this, they didn't really match what I wanted to see from this, so that's why Lemon's just a little bit lower than Cheryl. It's like by 0.5, you know? Because neither one of them were supermodel of the new world, and as far as the second category, Lemon didn't showcase a lot of drag to me, just a really cool costume, where Cheryl did display drag. So I thought she was just a little bit higher than where Lemon was at. Alternatively, Eureka succeeded in every category. I thought the middle one needed a little work, but the other 2 categories were spectacular. So I was very baffled and confused and perplexed why she wasn't in top 3. And Fierce keeps going on about this petulant thing, which there was a weird little moment of editing with Tracy, and I don't know if the "this is becoming one note" was edited from something else or what. I didn't really love that editing moment, but I mean, it is becoming one note. It is becoming dull. It's really bold to sass a judge who's going to be scoring you and deciding if you're gonna win that night. Alexis wins the challenge, and again, it's such a good day to be an Alexis Mateo stan. I'm so proud of her for getting a win in this category. I really wasn't sure what the storyline was going to be and who they were going to award a win to, but I'm glad that it went to Alexis. She decides to save Kennedy from the bottom, and Kennedy is a great ally. I think that Alexis had some really good points about who she was deciding between, and I think if she had saved Tainomi, that would have created an interesting Melinda Verga type situation. I wonder who would have gone home in a situation between Kennedy versus Cheryl. I'm inclined to believe that Cheryl would have won, but who knows? Avril Lavigne doesn't seem like the type of singer that Kennedy would succeed in, so maybe Cheryl would have won. Tainomi going home now feels really bad, especially because she's gone home to an Avril song twice now, both on a design challenge, and that's really convenient and disappointing and frustrating. I was really rooting for her, but I also didn't want Cheryl to go home either. Next week is a really interesting and odd challenge because instead of Snatch Game, where we normally would be at a top 6 situation, we're going into a reading battle situation. So it looks like we're gonna have 3 teams of 2 all reading each other like stand-up, but in duos. And I don't understand why we just didn't do them in solos. Because the duo thing seems weird and I don't know how that's gonna go. I'm nervous and slightly uncomfortable for what's gonna happen. My early predictions are that Kennedy and Fierce are gonna struggle no matter who they're with. Kennedy was not very funny during that challenge in season 7, the Despy Awards, where you had to read and roast. And Fierce just kind of goes bitter and grouchy when she's reading people and isn't very funny. Plus, she's already in a bad mood now, so who knows how that's gonna translate to next week, especially her saying during Untucked that she doesn't even know why she came back to compete again and she wished that she hadn't, which was really off-putting, I'm not gonna lie. There are so many people who would love to be on TV again, and for Fierce to have such a bad attitude after being in the top, that's gonna not only put a target on her back from the other queens, but also production as well. I think Lemon and Eureka are gonna do great. Lemon has always been good at reading and has one of the best reads of the entire franchise. And Eureka's just funny and knows how to read and knows how to banter and go back and forth. So I think she's gonna do well. And I think Alexis and Cheryl really could go either way. Cheryl has some moments where she's funny, but I don't know how well she is. I don't think she's very good at reading. And Alexis also is kind of back and forth. During her reading challenge, she was fine. During her comedy challenge, she was fine. But Alexis is not like bombastically, hilariously funny. She's sort of off the cuff funny. So the two of them could really go in either direction. But I'm pretty solid that the bottoms are gonna be Kennedy and Fierce, and I'm gonna say that the tops are gonna be Lemon, Eureka, and Alexis. That's my early predictions right now. I feel like it's very likely that Lemon is gonna win, and I feel like she will save Cheryl, which means that it'll be Fierce and Kennedy against each other, and Kennedy is gonna eat Fierce up. And we're gonna see Fierce go out next week. But then that leads to a weird situation, because are we getting a Thailand season 2 style Snatch Game where we're gonna have 5 queens in the room for a Snatch Game? Or are we finally doing away with Snatch Game as a concept and no longer doing it because it's not funny and it's not interesting and no one ever really likes Snatch Game? We'll see what happens in 2 weeks, but I will see you next week for the next review. Let me know what your thoughts were on this episode. Thank you for watching this very long review. Take care of yourselves and see you on the flip. Hey, thank you so much for watching. If you liked the video, make sure to click that like button. And if you want to see more, hit subscribe. Goodbye.